Gentlemen, I'm the Cuban assassin, Richie Acevedo. I'd like to welcome you to this week on Cuban's Corner, an exclusive segment right here on WrestleHustle. Catch me right here on YouTube. I'm going to talk about wrestling topics, mainly about wrestling topics, but I'm going to also talk about politics, talk about different things. I may occasionally put in a Bigfoot or UFO story in. You may never know. Why? Because I'm the Cuban assassin. I can do that. But the thing is, if those who don't follow along, I only got about 10 to 15 minutes in this segment to get everybody up to par. And those who don't really follow along and catch up, play the whole segment all over again. Anyway, it's only, common that courtesy that I'll be sitting here in front of this display here with the three world crowns, the NWA, the AWA, and the original World Wrestling Federation crowns here. The reason why I like to have this in the background is because to me, these are only true real world crowns. These are the historic figures, the historic trophies in our industry. These have history that goes along behind them. They also have stories that you would never believe. In the existence of each and every single one of these world crowns and the individuals who held them. And that's what I want to talk about today's segment a little bit. I want to talk about tradition, how some of the tradition in wrestling has changed, but the fundamental basic of tradition is still there. For example, paying dues. Now I'm a wholehearted believer of paying dues. Everyone in every type of industry should pay their dues. They should work from the bottom, work their way up to the top. That way you know you earned it and you deserved it. But one of the main things I want to talk about paying dues is from my time in 1989 towards the end of the territory days where everything's being bought out by Vince McMahon and being collectively into a wrestling empire that you see today. But one of the things I want to really tell you is, and when I started off in wrestling and paying dues, you had to help put up the ring, you had to help take down the ring, you had to go for this, go for that, you had to go do a lot of many different things, and you did it for free because you had to pay your dues to get into the business. If you wanted to be in the business, they wanted to see if you had a lot of heart and passion to be part of the business. And then part of your paying dues, once you got into the whole territory, you got to wrestle. Then you had to go somewhere and you get the crap beat out of you somewhere in one place. You go to another place, beat out of you for 20, 30, 40, 50 bucks. And then you will go and literally starve in your car in order to be able to get yourself back home. And you have to find ways to get yourself back home. This was what paying dues was of the past, along amongst other things. Paying dues of today is a little bit different. Now paying dues is kind of like you have to learn how to start from the bottom and you got to learn how to get to the big companies such as WWE. Or if you want to use TNA as a big company as a stepping stone, you can, because TNA is a big growing power, just like WWE. A lot of people want to blame Vince McMahon for the whole dissolving of the territory. Well, yes and no. Yes, that he did buy the territories and it did dissolve it. But no, Vince McMahon not necessarily destroyed the territories. He was just a guy, a realist and idealist, who saw a good opportunity to be able to see where technology was pushing our industry. Technology is what changed our industry, not Vince McMahon. I just want to clarify that to everybody out there so people understand. Vince McMahon was just a pioneer, a realist and an idealist, and he had exactly what it took for technology to move our professional industry. And it's important that change was made because everything changes in time. Everything looked the same, it just wouldn't sell no more. But, hey, I'm not here really to talk about the big transitional change. I'm here to talk about tradition. You're starting to see, even in the WWE, things going back to a little bit traditional. You're starting to see people taking an armbar hold now, which is something that they stopped for a long period of time because they wanted more action-paced, bloodthirsty fans. Like I like to call them Roman fans, because it's kind of like the Romans, except the exception is we're not throwing Christians to the lions. We're giving people good, wholesome entertainment, and you're getting live drama. And the thing is that the actual terminology about wrestling is supposed to be an exhibition. They are exhibition bouts. And that's still the traditional basis since the 1920s and a little bit before the 1920s when we always used the infamous shoot and hook to bring people to make money. But the number one thing about the wrestling industry that hasn't changed, that this business has been and always will be about making money. And it has been and always will be a business for the young. Not trying to take any disrespect away from any people that's trying to stay as long as they can. And I do firmly believe that if you got the nice young appearance look and you can go, then you should keep going and go as long as you're content. So God bless Gypsy Joe out there. And Gypsy Joe is one good pal of mine. I'm going to tell you, for a guy of his age, that man's tough as nails. And I also like to say, my hat goes off also to Hulk Hogan and to Nature Boy Ric Flair. And of course Terry Funk, which I think is the baddest dude in the world along with Gypsy Joe. Of course, you ask Gypsy Joe that, he would probably disagree with me there. But in either case, if they can go and go as long as they can in this profession, God bless you. This week, traditional values, let's just remember, you're still going to see arm bars, you're still going to see clotheslines, you're still going to see pinfalls. The rules and the illusion of the rules may not be there, the complete wrestling rules, but you got to admit, it is a lot more entertaining wrestling. And the storylines aren't that bad, considering the situations. Excuse me. I'm getting a little allergic to new school talking. Anyway, back to what I was talking. I'm an old school wrestler myself, but I don't go and hold anything against the new school. But I'm going to tell you right now is that this week, tradition is about everything about the business, and we're going to keep it that way. So, in closing for this week, I'd just like to say to all the fans that the traditional roots are still there, such as paying your dues, working your way from the bottom and working your way all the way to the top, and the traditional values are coming back in the old storytelling, the finishes, and so forth. So, let's give our hats off and a tip to tradition. This is the Cuban Assassin Corner this week on WrestleHustle.com, and you can see me on YouTube. Until next week, take care.
CW Rampage, we're seeing sexy Shane Steele, a return for Shane Steele back to the ring, taking on the Cuban Commando out of Havana, Cuba. And we saw a couple of weeks ago, Rock, in fact, it was just last week, what the Cuban Commando did to Killer Kurt.
Well, he rained on his parade. You know, the guy turns into a U.S. citizen, and this guy has to attack him from behind. But, you know, Killer Kurt don't run from anybody. He would have took the guy on one-on-one, but he had to do it from behind.
And here the Cuban choking Shane Steele with his own shirt. And Billy Biggs quickly in to break that one up.
The Fidel Castro wannabe, you know.
And the Cuban working over Shane Steele quickly. Again, this is our first chance to see Shane Steele since back in January, I believe, as well as the Cuban Commando.
Is he any relation to you?
No, no relation at all. You're talking about the Cuban.
No, I thought you were talking about Steele.
That's what I was talking about. The Cuban Commando with the advantage here now on Shane Steele. Fans, great lineup here for you tonight. Of course, we just saw Eddie Browning, one half of the former tag team champions, something else. A couple of big open-handed chops by the Cuban Commando. And Johnny Noble not getting along now since what we saw a couple of weeks ago for the tag team title where Eddie turned on Johnny.
John and Eddie are no more. It's like a divorce, you know. It's a sad thing. That's heartbreaking for a lot of people that's been watching these two guys come up through the ranks.
We got the Mid-American champion, Southern shooter Todd Morton in action, taking on handsome Bo James a little bit later here on NCW Rampage.
That's going to be a classic matchup right there.
We heard Bo James make the challenge last week, and we'll see the title match here tonight. So the Cuban now with a couple of words for the fans on the outside. Great crowd once again, as usual, here in Moorhead at the Carl Perkins Center. Cuban Commando shooting Shane Steele across and delivers the back elbow.
Cuban's been in control this whole match here. I mean, he's just totally dominated the man.
And what a way to come back for the Cuban Commando, coming back with a bang. As last week we saw Killer Kurt being an American citizen, or signing the papers to become an American citizen. All of a sudden, out of nowhere, the Cuban Commando attacks him from behind. And, of course, they've got a long history together as far as tag teams are concerned. They formed the Axis Powers. But I guess the Cuban Commando kind of left back in January. It was a bad turn for his partner, Killer Kurt, finding the American way, and the Cuban not liking that. Here, the Cuban missing a couple of maneuvers. The back elbow missed and delivers the knee right to the midsection of Shane Steele.
Well, I understand the Cuban Commando took a big tour of Puerto Rico where he's very successful. He's a very arrogant man. He comes back, his partner's different what he used to be. You know, he lost it. But the thing I don't understand is attacking him from behind.
Well, you know how those Cubans are.
It's a devastating backdrop.
The Cuban Commando, again, in control over Shane Steele. I guess maybe trying to send a message here. Here's going with a slingshot suplex. Nice maneuver by the Cuban Commando. He hooks the leg. He's got 2 and 3. That's it. The Cuban Commando with a slingshot suplex, and now dumping Shane Steele to the outside.
Here we go.
Big win for the Cuban Commando in our opening match here on Rampage. Fans, we'll be back after this time out, and we'll have more here on NCW Rampage.